Trending with the Tribune is your leading statewide source for unforgettable news about African Americans and other communities of color. We are a quarter of a century old and serve the areas of Knoxville, Jackson, Chattanooga, and Memphis. Brought to you by the Tennessee Tribune newspaper, published weekly by the Tennessee Tribune Publishing Company. Here's another edition of Trending with the Tribune, hosted by Miss June. Welcome to another edition of Trending with the Tribune. I'm your host, Miss June, of all things business, speech, and motivation. And today I have a very special guest, Miss Christina Callaway. Chris Callaway. She is running for the District 19 seat to come and serve the people of the community and also make a difference. So we look forward to hearing about Miss Callaway. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you so much for having me here. Thank you so much, Miss June.
Awesome. Well, Miss Callaway, Christina or Chris?
You can call me Chris. My full name is Christina, but most people call me Chris.
Okay. Well, Miss Chris Callaway, I understand that you come in pretty strong as an independent, as the common sense candidate, bringing real-world experience to the Senate floor.
Yes. I actually started out as an independent about 14 years ago. And after dealing with some educational as well as some business issues with my comrades, with people who I've helped over the last over a decade, I've seen that a lot of the issues that we have are not party issues, they're people issues. And every person I've talked to, from extreme conservative to very left liberal, have all said the same thing. We need someone with common sense, real world experience, and why don't you throw your name in the hat? And of course I shunned it for quite a bit because I'm comfortable with just serving the community as an advocate in education as well as our business and healthcare issues. But having seen some of the problems that we've had getting some of these issues to the floor and some sound strategies, I just don't believe that continuing to throw money at the same problems is the real solution. And having seen some of those solutions that have worked in other states out of the country, as well as some things that have worked in some districts even outside of ours, would like to make sure that all of Tennessee gets that opportunity.
Now I understand that you are a dean at Brooks Tutoring Academy.
Yes, yes.
Okay, now with that experience in the educational sector, how will that experience translate into service for the public schools?
That is a great question, because having been a dean for 14 years at the Brooks Academy has afforded me the ability to hear from parents, to see the transitions that have happened over the last 2 decades, and also to see some of the struggles. Our parents are dealing with much different issues than we were 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, when it comes to freedom of choice with the school system as well as the assistance that's needed. So one of the things that I want to bring to the platform or to the table are educational savings accounts. Educational savings accounts have worked in the ability to provide parents with some of those assistance and services in order to get tutoring. Okay, if you're in a zone with a failing school, to give that school an opportunity to improve by using the teachers from that school as well as being provided tutoring services. So educational savings accounts have actually worked very well in some other platforms, and would like to see some of our parents be able to have the freedom to use some of that as well.
Okay, and I understand that as part of your platform, you do support the Career and Ready to Work initiative.
Absolutely.
What does that look like as far as your vision?
Absolutely. So I talk with hundreds of people on a weekly basis, and one of the things that almost everyone says is, we used to have a trade before we left high school. We used to be able to fix a car, be able to build a table, be able to type. Some of those trades have actually gone away, or if they haven't gone away, they're only in select areas. That's not necessarily fair. It doesn't provide an even platform for everyone, for every child going into the workforce. Because by the time they graduate, by the time they're 18, we're expecting them to be producers. We're expecting them to be able to, if you're not going to college, at least have something to back you up. And a lot of times, and this is what one of my neighbors told me, they said, this is what they know the most is on the phone, and they're not able to go and express themselves or be able to provide some sort of service to the community. So providing certifications, providing trades, even on the high school level, statewide, would be one of the main things to also help reduce crime and also increase our business stability.
Okay, now speaking of business, that leads me to the next thing on your agenda. I understand that you have a vision to supplement the business taxes for the community. How does that work, and what is a snapshot of that?
Well, as the only candidate currently working in the business field, working with business owners, some of the things that I hear are, Chris, I might be bankrupt tomorrow. And they're a thriving business on the outside. But because of property taxes, because of specific initiatives and incentives that have now been taken away, when they try to partner with schools, maybe they don't have the same incentives that they used to. Even with our film commission, if we could also look into incentives for bringing our businesses into that field. We have seen some successes over the years with that, but they've just fallen by the wayside. So we want to bring some of that back, make it stronger, and also make it sustainable.
Okay, now what about crime reduction? We tend to turn on the news on a regular basis, and in the Nashville community there's a shooting somewhere. It can never be estimated or projected where the next bullet will fire, but with that being said, what is your approach to crime reduction?
First, I'd like to say that my heart goes out to each and every family that has experienced this. One of my son's teachers actually faced this. Her husband passed away, was shot needlessly. And to know that that was the only source of income in the family, or the main source of income, to know that this was somebody in the community who has done nothing but help, who has done nothing but try to be that person who uplifts someone, and to be needlessly shot in the stomach and left to die is atrocious. It's a tragedy. It hits home for all of us. Even if you don't know someone personally, it still hits home for all of us. And when we look at the foundation, when we look at the root cause, we find the despair, the lack of resources, the lack of knowledge. And so that again goes into why I'm really pushing trade back into schools, and also providing parents with the right type of platform for freedom of choice for their children. Because not every platform works for every single child. And we live in a day and age where we can be more flexible with the type of schooling to fit for our children. Crime in our area has escalated, that's no secret. Our district has experienced an increase in crime, more so than most others. And a lot of this also, when you equate the education and crime ratios, we find that we are also among the lowest in Tennessee when it comes to the rankings of our schools, okay, and our school performance. So we need to look at the foundation. What is the root cause? And the root cause is, of course, despair. Despair comes from lack of knowledge. Lack of knowledge comes from the lack of educational resources. So again, going back to that foundation. And then the second part of making sure that we reduce crime is making sure that we have great businesses that stay in our community.
Exactly.
Our businesses, if we can provide them with a sense of stability to make sure that they are employing people, to make sure that they're not run out of business because of unreasonable property tax increases, then it will be more attractive for other people to move into the neighborhoods, for them to keep up their neighborhoods, for a lot of opportunities for our schools to thrive, and we can have opportunities for each person, for every child, so that they're not resorting to violence, so that they're not resorting to crime, so that they don't think the only way out is because of displacement is to, resort to criminal measures. So we've worked with several students as well as college students over the years who have had some of those behavioral problems or who have been in juvenile, and have helped to reform that even under the Brooks Academy. So we've worked with students coast to coast, but especially here in Nashville, and we've seen that transformation, and it works. It works to actually have a hands-on program, to partner them with strong businesses, to have those businesses strengthen because they're partnering with schools. So it's not one or the other. What's the one key? It's making sure our communities are strong, making sure that our communities with our schools.
Thank you for joining us for this edition of Trending with the Tribune. To be a guest or advertise, please send your email to sales1501@gmail.com.